Hey y'all, welcome to Homestead Budgets. My name is Heather and today I'm going to be doing my debt tracker for the month of October. I do just want to go ahead and preface this with this is going to be like I always try to be with these debt confession type videos. This is going to be a raw one. This is real. This is like my real debt kind of thing. It's not just something that I'm doing for YouTube or anything like that. So you are going to see just kind of real life has happened over the past month, and you're going to be able to see that kind of reflect in some of these numbers, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. If it's your first time here, welcome. We do lots of cash stuffings, unstuffings on this channel, as well as I try to document as much of my debt-free journey as I possibly can, along with some saving challenges and things like that. So if you're interested and you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe this video so that way you can see more of the content that I have coming out. And if it's not your first time, welcome. I'm always excited to see you guys and chat with you a little down in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and we will go ahead and get started with this. Okay, so that way y'all can see a little bit better. Like I said, life just kind of happened a lot this past month. I know I shared with y'all earlier this year. I'll fill some of this out while I kind of just chat with you about what's going on. But earlier this year, I shared that my husband and I unfortunately had a miscarriage earlier this year. We've been trying to grow our family for over a year now, and that was just, it was just a really tough time for us. And over the past couple of months, we've had numerous doctor's bills and hospital bills and you name it come in from the surgery that I had to have after my miscarriage. And unfortunately, we had to start putting money towards it. We couldn't like just ignore it anymore. We had kind of been ignoring it because just this whole thing has been really emotional. It's been really, really tough on my mental health, especially. And I still kind of have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that we basically owed close to $5,000 in hospital, doctor's bills, and anesthesia bills, all to not leave the hospital with our baby. I don't know. I could go on a whole rant about it, but I think that it is just cruel to, I don't know, make grieving mothers pay for things like that. But I don't know. It is what it is. But unfortunately, we did have to use a couple of cards to take care of some of those balances. Because at least they were able to like cut us a deal on if we made like lump payments, then we could like pay less, if that makes sense. But so you're all of that to say, you're basically going to see some of these balances have gone up quite a bit. I think my total debt has gone up by like $850. So it's still not bad because I was still paying off other cards while we were having to put some money on some of these cards. But from last month, my debt has gone up $850. Yeah, so is what it is. I just really wanted to be very transparent with y'all and, you know, just share with anybody else that's on a debt journey. Like sometimes this stuff happens, like, you know, you might be putting hundreds of dollars a month towards your debt in order to get that all paid off. And something comes up and, you know, I'm using the Dave Ramsey baby steps, and in that your first step is to save up $1,000 emergency fund. Since I am self-employed, I chose to save up a month's worth of expenses And that was around $2,500. So I was just a little bit more comfortable with that number versus just $1,000, just because my income does vary greatly week to week. So we basically dipped into that, depleted it, and then had a little bit extra, which is where you see that like $800 come into play. But that stuff happens. So now at this point in my like baby steps method, I'm kind of having to go back to step one, to save that emergency fund back up again. I have other funds in place to where like I'm not worried. And especially like this season coming up, November, December are always very busy months for me. So I know that I'll be okay. Don't like worry or anything like that. But it is what it is, I guess. But so that's where we are. I'm going to record all of this. I'm still going to try to work on my debt as much as possible, but obviously I'm going to have to switch. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I am going to have to switch focus a little in my weekly cash stuffings that I do into rebuilding my emergency fund before I can come back and heavily hit on my debt. So we'll go ahead and start with the first card. I'm going to try not to move this around too much. It is my Target card. The credit limit here is $500, and the balance that I have on it right now is $421.78. Now, I am doing a method to pay off my debt that is kind of like a modified snowball method. So what I'm going to do is, because I would like to see my credit score go up, so I'm going to work on getting each of these balances down to 30%. And then once they're all down to 30, let me rewind. I'm going to work on getting them to 30, continue making the minimum payments on everything until I get every single card down to 30%. And then once I do, I will go back up to the top. And if there are any balances left after, you know, I've been continuing to make those minimum payments, then I'll go ahead and pay those down to 0. So with that being said, 30% goal basically for this card is going to be $150. So the amount that I need to pay in order to get to 30% is going to be $271.78. And the minimum for that card is about $30 a month. And I have, this is just kind of how I track things on my end, but I have already paid this bill for this month. So that is good to go. My PayPal, I did have a couple of things change, which is some good news. With a couple of my cards, I was able to get credit limit increases on them. So that's going to help my percentage as well. So my PayPal credit limit is $1,000. The balance on here is $867 and 2 cents. And we used this one for one of the bills we were able to pay with PayPal. And on my PayPal, it's not a credit card, it's like a line of credit, but on there, anytime that I spend over, I think it's like $100, they give you a 6-month period that if you can pay that balance off within 6 months, they're not going to charge you any interest on it. So the one bill that we could put on there, we did put on there. And then that way we at least have 6 months to pay that off without any interest hitting it. And the 30% for this one is going to be $300. So I need to pay $567.02 in order to get down to that 30%. And then the normal minimum payment on here is going to be $30 per month. Now, what I'll do for, which I have already paid this for this month, but what I will do is I will take the like promotional balance that's on there and divide it by 6, and I personally will make that my new minimum payment, even though on like my online banking it will always say that my minimum payment is $30. But I will make my minimum payment whatever that balance divided by 6 is, so that way I can make sure to take advantage of the 0%, which is the whole reason why we put the balance on there. Next is my Ally credit card. This also has a credit limit of $1,000, and this one is pretty high. This got with one of the bigger bills put on it. So the balance on here is $976.53. The 30% for this is also going to be $300. So the balance that I need to pay to get it down to 30% is $676.53. And the minimum due on this card is $25 a month. I think I moved y'all around a little bit. Okay, and then for my Venmo card, the credit limit is $1,300, and the balance, this is one that I was able to keep low, is $507.06, and the 30% on that is $390. So I need to pay $117.06 to get it down to that 30%, and then the minimum on that is normally about $40 a month. So I'll start working with these lower cards first, since this is a modified Snowball method, and get them down. And honestly, in the time that I'm able to pay off these three balances, that minimum payment is going to take care of that pay to get to 30%. So hopefully by the time that I get to Venmo, I can just like skip right over it onto the next one, which is my business Capital One credit card. And I do include this in my total debt, just so that way I have a big picture of everything that's going on, even though this is paid obviously out of a business account, not my personal account. So the balance on this one is, I'm sorry, I totally wrote that down and didn't even explain it. The credit limit on this one actually jumped $1,000. It used to only be $500, so that was really nice. And then the balance on it now is $669.68, and on top of all of those hospital bills, because you know, when it rains it pours basically. I had a tire go out on my car, which I use very heavily for work. And a couple of the other tires weren't looking very great. I drive a lot of miles, so I do have to replace the tires very frequently. So a majority of that was for brand new tires. So what are we on now? So the 30% for that card is going to be $450. And the pay to get to 30% is $219.68. And then the minimum payment on this is normally about $30. So same thing with the Venmo. Hopefully by the time that I work on these first three cards, these minimum payments will take care of a majority of this part of the balance. So that will at least be good. Moving on to my next one is also a Capital One credit card. The credit limit for this card is $2,750. And these are some of my cards that are close to, if not over the limit. So just, you know, transparency, that just is what it is. The balance on this one is $2,761.22. So this one's about $11 over the credit limit. So when I make the payment this month, it'll even that out. The 30% for this is $825, and my pay to get to that 30% is going to be $1,936.22. And the minimum payment on this card each month is $95. Moving on to my Wells Fargo credit card. The credit limit here is $3,000, and the current balance is $2877.16. And then the 30% for that credit limit amount is $900. So my pay to get to 30% is going to be $1977, and the minimum payment on that each month is around $100, and I have already paid that one for this month. And then my last one is another Capital One credit card. The credit limit on this one is $4,000. The balance is $4,016.36. So again, with the payment this month, it will take care of that overage. The 30% is $1,200, and the pay for me to get to 30% is going to be $28.16.36, and the minimum on that each month is around $134. And then last but not least, it's not a credit card, it's just my car loan. I just like to put it in with this because it's a debt that I'm paying off every month anyway, even though there's technically not like a 30% mark on it or anything else. And there's not technically a credit limit. The amount that I normally put here is just the total amount that I took out on the loan, which was $13,311. The balance that I still have left on it is, let's see, $10,614.15. And then there's no 30% because it's not a credit card. So I'm just going to mark these two columns out. And then my payment on that each month is $225. So that is everything that I have for this month, which means the total starting balance for October is $23,710.96. And then my minimum payment is, like, basically all the minimum payments added up is $704. So that's what I'm looking at for this month. Like I said, it's not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't like, was not my plan to have all of these things pop up to make my credit, like, balance go back up, but it just kind of, that's life, right? Things happen that go against the plan, and we've just got to figure out how to alter our plan and keep moving forward. And that's what I'm doing. So, actually, I'm going to zoom you guys back in really quick just to talk to you about what that game plan is for the next couple of months. I'm just going to scoot this up a little bit. So, moving on with where we are now, I'm still going to be working on getting cards back down to this 30%. So obviously my first one is going to be the Target card. So it'll be paying that $271 down. And then after that, I will be working on this PayPal balance pretty as quickly as I can to take advantage of that 0%. And then I'll move on to Ally. And like I said, hopefully in the time that I work on these three cards, these minimum payments for the next two will have taken care of these balances. So then hopefully I will be able to jump from my Ally credit card down to this Capital One credit card. And then these three are obviously my heavy hitters. So it's going to take a little bit to pay those three off. But yeah, that's the plan, along with trying to bulk back up that emergency fund, so that way that is all set. I think what I might do is just get that back up to $1,000, and then start working on the debt again. And then as like the holiday season comes around, because that's a busy time for my business, I will throw extra into that emergency fund to get it back up to the $2,500. But just so that way I can keep the momentum going on my debt payoff. I don't want to like just stop doing it and like fall out of that habit of putting those big chunks towards my debt. So I think that is the plan moving forward. I hope that you guys enjoy this video. I hope that if you're in your debt payoff journey and you have had some bumps in the road, I hope that this brings you some comfort in that it happens. It happens, and such is life, And as long as you have that plan in order to keep moving forward and to keep your goals right in front of you and you know where you're going, you're in a good spot. So it's okay. We'll figure it out together. If there's any questions that y'all have or anything like that, please do let me know down below. If there's anything that I can help out on or anything like that, I am more than willing to do so. But other than that, I hope that y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see y'all next week for my weekly cash stuffing. Bye, y'all.